Broadcasting live to Bills Mafia worldwide with Greg Tompsett and Aaron Quinn.
Welcome to the NFL.
Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
Your number one podcast for objective Buffalo Bills coverage. No matter where you are, we got you covered.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your back-to-back division champ podcast co-host, Crack the Uncle Jumbos. Gentlemen, how are we feeling?
Did the Bills play today?
Feeling like the champs, baby.
Aaron, are you also pouring the cream soda?
Victory tastes
Goddamn
so
right
good.
I am.
Look at that. Kindred spirits. This tastes like victory. A small victory, hopefully on the path to a bigger victory later this year.
The Bills,
but a victory nonetheless.
Like the Bills tonight, I spilled a little bit all over myself before finishing a perfect pour.
Incredibly apropos. Incredibly apropos.
The Bills look flawless tonight. What are you talking about?
Obviously, we'll get into all the details tonight. Obviously, there's a lot of fun and exciting things that we want to be able to get into. And obviously wanted to share our presenting sponsors, Uncle Jumbo's, and all the goodness they have going on. I got all kinds of things over my shoulder and above me for them. But tonight is an exciting announcement. We want to share a new sponsorship with BookSeats.com. Cover One is ecstatic to be partnered with a group like this. You guys know exactly what they offer. Every time you go to create a new package to be able to go somewhere, you go, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I like that hotel and that flight, but I want better tickets than that. Or, oh, hey, I actually already live in the area, so I can drive, and I only need a hotel and tickets, but I have to buy the flight with it. Or, hey, I'm kind of tall. I need a little extra leg room. Well, the guys over at BookSeats.com have that all figured out. You can get just your tickets. If you're coming into town and need playoff tickets, they can hook you up for this Bills game because the Bills are going to be hosting a playoff game next weekend. We'll talk about who in a moment. If you need hotels, if you need a hotel and ticket package, if you need a hotel ticket and flight package, they have you covered across the board. Anything that you need, you get to figure out where you want to splurge, where you want to be able to bring new things in. So all of our out-of-town listeners who are hooking up with us now and ready to come into town for this playoff game next week, check it out. Go to BookSeats.com. We have the show link in the description right now. You can get hooked up with it. Or for the coming road, we may have a fun road here to
Over
go
that AFC title game.
Tennessee, Kansas City, all over the place. We could be going maybe to LA. We'll have to see where it needs to be. Check out our guys at BookSeats.com. Aaron, you know how annoying it can be with these kind of things. I really love the flexibility that they offer.
Yeah, so I used to do a lot of traveling to football games, being a Bills fan in Maine, trying to catch them whenever I could, whenever they came closer to the East Coast. Obviously, me and my friends, New England fans, would try to catch a game here in Buffalo every year. And it is kind of a pain in the butt, whether it's just seat booking, finding tickets can be a pain. But then it's nice as the leader of organizing a trip like that to just be able to go to one-stop shop, book everything, not have to go to 3 different sites and book your tickets somewhere and get your hotel somewhere. And if you're flying in, get that. Or if you're driving in, you still just want your hotel and your tickets all taken care of at one stop. So it's a very cool idea to just have it all in one area, however you want it, sort of a la carte, whatever you want to do. And yeah, if you're looking to get to this game, I know tickets weren't going great for this last game, but they're going to be flying off the shelves here this week. So I mean, get on it now.
Full capacity home playoff game forever.
Absolutely.
Everybody can go to this. It's the first full capacity home playoff game in 20 years. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So we see Bills fans traveling all over the place. I see it all the time on Twitter, Bills fans from everywhere. Get in on it. So click that link and go get yourself some tickets.
It's so legitimate. I've been all over the country for football games, wrestling shows, baseball games, like all kinds. And it's such a, like all jokes aside, like it's such a pain sometimes to set up your flight and your hotel and then get the tickets. And like you're going on this site, you have this window open while you also have something else open and you're trying to coordinate everything. And yeah, it's nice to have everything all in one package. And it's super nice that, they think Cover One is sweet and they were like, hey guys. And then you guys are like, hey guys, and look where we are.
But down and back in, the reason you are here is because the Buffalo Bills have defeated the New York Jets 27-10 alongside a little shout in for it. We got to watch the Miami Dolphins beat the New England Patriots. Based on everything going right now, the Bills are locked into the 3 seed going into the playoffs here. Based on the rest of the results tonight, If the Los Angeles Chargers beat the Raiders, we will play the Los Angeles Chargers. If the Las Vegas Raiders beat the Chargers, we will host the New England Patriots. Those are the two outcomes that are still available here. We are either going to be hosting the Los Angeles Chargers or the New England Patriots. Those are the only two outcomes left. If the Raiders make it, they will go to Cincinnati, who are the 4th seed. And again, if the Chargers win, the Patriots will go to Cincinnati and be the 4th seed. So most of the rest of this is all locked in. I think Kansas City is locked into hosting Pittsburgh. Yes. Tennessee is locked into the 1 seed. Everything else is rock solid. So we'll see where those things go from there. Anthony, what were your initial thoughts on what was a crazy, like we'll talk about it here when we put up the team stats and everything there. How weird is it to process your emotions and feelings during the game to stepping back and looking what it actually was now?
Oh, should we interrupt? Because we got a super chat.
Oh yeah, by all means, always interrupt with a super chat.
Let's go. Let's pull.
So, Sean Cunningham asking, is Hack that bad, or do we need to address the current stadium, which allows so much wind one way, and how much that should remain be the main issue addressed in the new stadium? Not dome or not, but wind management. The shanks tonight for Matt Hawk were not. Maybe it hurt a little extra, but those were off the side of his foot.
Yeah, especially after you watched Terrence Mann.
You could see his face.
Yeah, he was disappointed. And Terrence Mann, not
Braden Mann,
but Braden Mann. There you go. Sorry, Terrence Mann is someone else. Yeah, I'm a Clippers guy. That's why I was like, it's not Terrence, but it's close. They might be. Like he wasn't booming them into the wind, but he had enough punts when that it was execution from Hawk.
And later, Hack actually had 2 good punts into the wind. Right. His 49-yard punt was into the wind. That's actually pretty impressive.
It's a shame he had a really good punt that was a touchback and only netted 30 yards.
Yeah, correct. It ended up only being a 29-yard.
My wife was like, "Oh, he finally had a good kick," and I was like, "He would have been better off just having like a 25-yard shank. Yeah, like would have been the same.
Like a 35-yard shank would have been better than the net 29 yards that we got." Yeah. Then he did have his 6th one was killer, and it was down to the 2-yard line. That was it. That was the whole thing. So to the question. He was horrible today. We've seen more horrible punting than we have acceptable punting. He has had stretches like the second third of the season, the middle section of the season. He had a nice run where he was good, but he was horrible at the beginning. He's been either didn't have to punt, which is great. All the games where he doesn't punt are great, and then horrible at the end. So for that question, the wind is not an excuse for Matt Hawk. He was horrible today. But leading into that, Anthony, I might as well just go right into it and show what we were talking about pre-show. We're talking, and both Aaron and I ended up tweeting a bit about it. Part of it, hey, we got interrupted again. As fired up as I am, 9 sacks, a win, AFC East champs. I hope we kick this recent script and come out hot. The stall out for 4 to 6 drives and kind of you have to scrap it to get it together is tough. But that's what we want to show here. It's really hard to understand. Oh, wait, another one.
Super chat. Great comment from Ned.
Great job as a placeholder. That is fantastic. By all means, I bet you guys can't continue to interrupt me. I bet you won't. When you look at these team stats, it's insane. 424 yards to 53. That is historically dominant. 25 first downs to 4. That is historically dominant. 1 for 14 on third down. 1 for 14. Wait, another one. Brian Fuhr, not to be that guy, but does anyone realize that without the 17th game, we wouldn't have had the division? Thankful for that. Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to know. They would have bumped out one of the other games, so we would have played the division games earlier. But he's right. Last week, technically, there were some other things there, so it's
well, we were still leading the division.
Yeah, we would have won it at the end of last week. We would have won it.
We still would have won it.
Yeah, that might have locked that up already, but
we would have had to play the Jets one more time somewhere.
Yeah, it was in question when it would have been done. Here's another one from Stephen Wechter. Love you guys from Geneva, Switzerland.
Awesome.
Hey, if
I would love to visit sometime.
Yeah, come up, fly in with BookSeats.com.
There you go. I might have to fly out with BookSeats.com.
Kel sees through you, Greg. He sees through
I see through your ploy, Greg. You don't have to read this if you don't want to. There, you sure showed me. And Patton, it's what we get. The holder being the emergency punter. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
Spot on. So again, obviously showing these overall numbers, we'll go through the box score like we normally do and share who did what. But this is the one. This is the one right here. in this game, we had 254 net passing yards because we passed for 254 yards and had 0 sacks. They had 5 net passing yards. I'm going to say that again slowly. They had 5 net passing yards.
That's with a 40-yard passing touchdown.
Yes. Yes.
That
With
they
a
had.
40-yard passing touchdown, they ended up with 5 net passing yards.
Right.
So, Anthony, again, how do you process that feeling of, oh, this is horrible? Nope, got to interrupt again.
Nope, stop.
Matt, I'm
so
going to
much,
let you
Matt.
finish. But Cover One is championship caliber Bills coverage all season, every season. Matt, you're awesome.
Appreciate
Thank
you,
you
Matt.
so much, man. One more try. Anthony.
This is going to be a rough one, I feel like, tonight. This is going to be a rough one.
How did it feel to kind of feel the emotions that all of us did during the game and then see the outcome and those stats I just shared?
It's wild. Like, just because it felt like we were dominating. And then at the same time was also like, we're like one play away from being down in this game. And it was frustrating and nerve-wracking.
Tell me you weren't petrified every time Hawk went back to punt that, oh my God, it's going to happen.
Both,
it's going to happen.
Both sides of punting. When Matt Hawk would go to punt and then Isaiah McKenzie was back to return a punt, I was not feeling great. And then you got like halftime Bill Cowher making faces and being like, oh, they should be up, but they're not. Like, it was just a frustrating scenario of, it felt like the Bills had this game. They come out so hot. They look so good. And then it just
hold
like,
on. I have to interrupt you for a redhead. Aaron Dable and are Brian Dable and Josh learning any lessons from these weather games? Anthony, what do you think?
I think they're learning how to attack differently and how to pivot in terms of like the rhythm and how they go. You could tell that they were trying to establish the run earlier in this game. And then
they didn't pivot to it till late last game.
Correct. Yeah. They went to it early. They tried to establish it. I honestly think with this one, this weather game was so weird from the perspective of the second and third quarter. Like, that wind was legit. You saw it even on the Tyler Bass kickoff. Like, the ball goes up and it just dies and drops at like the 15 to start the second half there. So I think anytime you have any game, there's going to be those learning experiences. I think what they continue to do in these weather games, as they have the past several, including to today, they're finding their rhythm in terms of the run game and what they can pivot to and how they can attack differently, because certain aspects of the passing game, even though Josh has a cannon for an arm, sometimes you're still not going to be able to get to some of those things. So I think they're learning how to pivot and what they can pivot to depending on what's going on and how the rhythm of the game is going.
I'm going to pivot to Aaron with this one real quick, because I was debating about doing like a what's up with that skit, and like Aaron would be Lindsey Buckingham, be like, oh, sorry, Lindsey, we had so many super chats. I couldn't get to you here by the end of the show. We love you, Lindsey. Thank you. Aaron, how do you feel here? A little late to the party, but here to interrupt with the Bills AFC as champs again, with where Anthony was going. How did it feel during the game? You talked about a conversation with your wife along this idea.
To me, it felt very Billsy. Yeah. It felt like, I hate to say it, up until that. Yeah, I do too, but it did. And somebody even said that. I tweeted out that it felt Billsy, and somebody's like, dude, that's some drought era Bill stuff. And I was like, well, it kind of felt when it was 13-10, that felt real drought era Billsy. Like, they were going to maybe lose this game and still somehow back their way into winning the AFC East. Like, that'd be the most Billsy thing you've ever seen. Like, dominate a game, lose it somehow, and still end up winning.
Yeah, with the Patriots losing, then have to explain to the fans that no, it's okay to be excited. We
Nobody knows how
won
to
the
feel
division
at the stadium. Like, we
J.O.,
still won
our
it.
man. Appreciate you,
thanks,
Joe.
man, Jay. But so that was up until the final 15 minutes. I had a friend over here that's not even a Bills fan. He's a Washington football team fan. So he had nothing to do today. And so he came over to watch the game, and he was saying, like, it's so crazy how this game, every time they would throw the stats up, and it was like, man, the Bills are just dominating, but they're just not converting and keeping drives alive. They're not able to, the defense was dominant. The defense really had no flaws outside of the one play. We went for 40.
Literally one play.
You knew the Jets were not going to score again, but with the way special teams was playing, like, they could have snuck an extra possession, snuck an extra point or touchdown out of your special teams.
Multiple interruptions.
I was saying, we got it.
Weather is the same next weekend. Impossible to judge cross winds, even though Allen can cut through the wind. Hopefully they come up with something. We talked about it pre-show. The wind, technically the team with the wind was 34-3 today because the Bills dominated the first and second quarter. I wouldn't say the Jets dominated the second or third quarter, but they won them. They were winning. It's just 10-3. So
they did have the Jets did have -3 yards offensively in the third quarter.
And won the quarter. They won the quarter. Crosby Klaus here. Josh Allen lateral redemption game. That's going to come up here. Great call on that one. Really heads up. Smart play. Another one here. Eruption cat. I think Terrence Maness from Field of Dreams. Also a great call there. I think he also might play for the Clippers, and he was the writer. I think that was James Earl Jones' character in Field of Dreams.
Oh, good call. He definitely plays for the Clippers, but I forgot that one.
Choosing to be encouraged by another great game from Motor. So $26 it is. Always a great call. We love our guys over at 26 Shirts. And Jason, really generous. Just interrupt.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Jason.
Just interrupt. Spot on. So it's fantastic here. Dylan here, me watching this game. Wow, sick. What a play. Josh Allen is the GOAT. Motor running great. D is playing lights out. Oh, we're up 3 points. What's going on?
That's it.
Well,
that's it in a nutshell.
I'm gonna pump the brakes that I didn't think Josh played great until the end of the game. Like he had the first two drives were good, and then there was about 40 playing minutes of football that were not very good.
He has that first touchdown where he makes a completion with an adult male draped all over his back, and then you're like, wow, this game, and then you're just like,
I was like, we're about to light him up. Like it's gonna be, but ultimately,
because normally that's when we boat race. Same as Atlanta last week. I was wrong both times. Like, oh, yep, they're done. This is gonna get ugly, and then
totally. And this is pretty close. This game got pretty close to my prediction, Greg. Like I was 34-13, I think was my prediction. I was like, we'll see Trubisky at the end of the game. Not how I envisioned this game would end up being a blowout. But I do think at some point, the wind played a factor. We're going to have to play in winter conditions here going forward throughout the playoffs, whether it's home or away. Josh Allen struggled through the middle of the game. We'll be able to celebrate tonight and get through that tonight, but there is some conversations about the highs and lows of this offense that we need to level out a little bit if you're going to beat teams that aren't the Jets.
Real quick, I wanted to pull up one sorry, Greg, there's one from way back. I think we'll get to this. Well, first of all, thank you, Justin, for your donation, but I think we'll get to this when it comes maybe to the Matt Hawk conversation, unless you want to address it now.
So I think, as I like to say, there's a genuine non-zero chance that they pivot to
Scottish Hammer,
the Scottish Hammer, and that they go that route. And I don't think Jamie Gilliam is going to be the Bills punter through the postseason because I don't think they want to mess with the holding element of it. But that is absolutely on the table, and I can promise you 100% Heath Farwell, Sean McDermott, and Brandon Beane are talking about it right now. They're having that discussion tonight because if you're going to pivot there, you need to give Jamie Gilliam all the practice you can starting tomorrow. So I don't know that they're going to, but it's possible here. Aaron, how about this one? What are your thoughts on if it impacts their decision making for the stadium?
So the comment is, didn't address the stadium. So many passes were off going against the wind. It's more important to manage the wind in a new stadium. I don't know how you do that, to be honest. They're not going to invest more money in this building at its current where it is, like outside of anything they have to legally do to make sure it's a safe place for fans. This is something I talk about with fans a lot that want a dome or want to somehow block the wind. No matter what we want, Terry Pegula's finally at this point had enough of the wind. There's been so many bad weather games. He's had enough of it. And he decides he wants a roof. Outside of us joking the other day of asking Bills Mafia to throw a bunch of tables and thatch a roof together. There's not much you're going to do, and you're not going to get a stadium.
I respect Steven's strategy. He's just going to pace out his $5 as he goes throughout the show to see if he can just interrupt us little by little. I respect the strategy. I like it.
I don't know how much CHFs are.
Pretty close.
Okay, I can't tell. So
50
Yeah, because some of those currencies, it could be like throwing.
My day job, the regular currency we get in is Swiss francs. So I know that one off the top of my head.
There you go. But no, I think the answer. This is going to frustrate Bills fans. The answer for the stadium is not coming until Josh Allen's 9 years into his career. The Bills need to figure out how to play through this. It's not coming anytime soon.
Woo!
Josh has to figure it out.
Dave Arena. Dave is awesome. He is with us every single show, all the time, on Twitter, all the time.
Huge follow.
You can find him on there, back-to-back AFC East champs, going into the playoffs hot. We'll talk about that. They at least hot coming off that fourth quarter. But awesome.
Hot but flawed, and that's what Sean McDermott's probably telling the media right now. A lot to work on, but hey, they're there. They punched the ticket.
100%. Hell, this is probably exactly what Sean McDermott wants. Hot back-to-back wins, but not enough that they can be riding high or too big of themselves.
Right.
Eric here, a stadium like Hard Rock would work. Similar, you see those ones that are like
that's what they're talking about
covered,
doing. Yeah.
Something like that. So I think there's ways that they could cut out how dramatic the wind impacts things without being a dome. So we'll see where that goes.
But you're still 5 years out.
Steven's killing it.
Yeah, you're spot on. Like no matter what, we're talking 2027. So like it's a while. And Steven Wachter back with another one. Keep them coming, brother. We appreciate it. Anthony, start us out with just how you process this game from Josh Allen. So you're talking ultimately, we step back 24 of 45 for 239 and 2 touchdowns, tack on another 5 carries for 63 yards, including a critical 32-yard kind of gallop as he got rolling there. So still 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, but ultimately, I guess, kind of ugly.
Yeah, that's the way. Actually, before I'll get started, this is a natural segue. This is a really funny comment from Will. He said, "Can Micah Hyde punt?" That's very good. Appreciate the donation.
I had
Good
multiple
question.
people on Twitter ask me if Tyler Bass could punt.
Robbie Gould punted decently well for the 49ers today in some spot duty because their punter got hurt. I think on the
Mitch
opening.
Wisnowski, I think.
Yep, there you go. Something like Polish.
I liked him
sounding.
coming out of the draft.
Yeah, that was from Monsters Inc. Which
That's Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski.
Where's your paperwork,
Instead, careful.
Wazowski?
Careful. We can't say that. We'll probably get
true.
that one. Instead of $500 million roof, build a $50 to $75 million refrigerated aircraft hangar with a football field and wind tunnel inside to practice on. Interesting.
That's a good one.
Like it.
I like that one a lot.
Kaiir, if we poke Anthony enough, will we interrupt him 1,000%?
That's gold.
That is absolutely
gold.
perfect. That's when you know somebody's a true
Kel's
listener.
on a roll today. Seeing through you, bringing it back full circle, bringing the inside joke with 1,000%. That's some good stuff. This is another one. We talked about it last week where Josh Allen had like the Wayne Gretzky fantasy hockey game. Where his legs were great and his arm not so much. This one was really interesting. Again, like last week, I want to see the all 22 and see what happened. I don't want to just chalk it up to going into the win, but I would really like to see, I should have done the raw calculation before we started, the raw numbers of second and third quarter Josh Allen versus first and fourth quarter Josh Allen. I think that was definitely a very legitimate thing that affected the Bills and this Bills offense, but he didn't look sharp, even with like non-win factors, like some of his decision making, some of his throws, even in the short to intermediate areas. That
stretch where it was like 4 straight passes, where they're not on the same page, and he just threw it to nowhere because he wasn't reading the coverage the same as the receiver.
Exactly, they just weren't on the
I don't know
same
who
page.
that's on, right?
Yeah,
fair.
I had a couple people ask me that on Twitter.
Yes.
I'm like, there's no way we
Hard
can
to
know.
know.
We don't know how they're reading the leverage
Or who's supposed to do
know,
what in coverage.
Correct.
Like, we'll be able to
was a
see what the coverage
miscommunication.
was. We don't know what the receivers or what Josh is supposed to do in those coverages.
Yeah.
The only
real
person
quick here, Richard Conley talking about, I'm fully on board with CenturyLink Stadium. I've been out there and been in CenturyLink Stadium. It wasn't for a football game, but for a tour. It's perfect. And that actually, CenturyLink Stadium is the exact design starting point that the engineers are using. That was their
although you will have to put
their baseline.
Walls up along
theirs
the end
are
zones because
that.
theirs are
fins.
only on the side.
Yeah, bigger fins. It would have to be a little something more on the end, but that was the
Because
general
right now,
idea.
that's
for
the
it.
problem in Ralph Wilson right now is you have big sides.
Yeah.
And you still have cutting through north and southeast. I don't know what.
Yeah. Triggs here asking why did it take for the fourth quarter for rollouts? Anthony, you want to finish your thoughts on Josh Allen with that one?
I think some of it also comes down to what kind of routes you're executing off of those rollouts. That's like a huge piece of it. Like think of I'm guessing the one that's sticking in the head is that rollout and the beautiful touch pass to Gabriel Davis, right, in the fourth quarter. I don't know if that gets completed in the second or third quarter because of the touch that he has to put on that ball and if it gets caught in the wind. I think that the wind was a significant part of it, unfortunately. And then like we were talking about, there was just like mental disconnections and things seemed disjointed and there wasn't great execution. And we had the one third down, I think in the second quarter, where Gabe Davis runs that like 5-yard stick route and he turns outside and goes, and Allen puts it a little too much inside and it's incomplete. And there were just so many things that seemed hard in this game. And Allen didn't seem, despite the fact that touchdown in the first quarter was unbelievable. He lowers his shoulder into an NFL linebacker, powers through it, and then while that linebacker is draped on him, pulling him down, he still fires it pinpoint to the sideline for Diggs to make that catch. Like, it was wild. And he did have some really nice moments. He had that great touch pass to Dawson Knox. Oh, Greg, you're on mute. But I read what you
once a show.
Yeah, this is the best one so far, Matt. We interrupt your Bills coverage for an important announcement. Hit that like button.
Hey,
that's a fantastic one. Excellent job, Matt. We appreciate you always.
That's very funny.
And got me on mute. It's all the better.
Is there another one before him? I see yellow highlighted over the chat, but I feel like I can't find it. Maybe we got to it already. It was just, another game where things just seemed disjointed. He didn't seem completely on point. I really want to go and check the tape and see what it was. But, he makes some plays with his legs. I really love the smart headiness of the lateral to Dawson Knox to allow him to get out of bounds. Somebody commented that in here and said lateral redemption game for
almost
Josh Allen.
The identical scenario. He was trying to make a big play in the Houston playoff game here.
Yes.
It was really heady where he knew he was going to get tackled inbounds when you were trying to run the clock, run down the 2 minutes or the end of the first half, flips it to Dawson Knox. After he drew the defender over, he purposely waited till the last minute, then flipped it to Dawson Knox, knowing he was behind him as he sucked the defender in to let Dawson Knox get out of bounds. That's really, really heads up.
Heady.
Tried to connect on one of those last week.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well.
That's right.
Knox wasn't ready for it. You saw it work this time.
And
that's obviously something they
have an idea of. And that's the Josh Allen. Like, look at this week. He had another throw kind of across the field a little bit to Isaiah McKenzie for a first down. Last week he tried to do that, got intercepted by Atlanta. This is the yin and yang of Josh Allen. But overall, we get the job done with how the defense played. And, I also think you got to give some credit to Robert Saleh. I really liked Robert Saleh when he went to the Jets. And you got to think, for me at least, I'm thinking, he saw the Bills last year as the defensive coordinator for the 49ers. Then he sees him again this year with the Jets. And now this is the third time he's facing Josh Allen in this offense in under a year. So maybe he had some things crafted up and schemed up a little bit. And really good comment here. Another one from Cliff. Thank you so much. That's 2 donations in one episode from Cliff. Thank you so much. Cliff says, who told Motor to beast Motor these past 3 weeks? Jets D guys were hitting hard and flying today, yet he continued to punish defenders. Key asset. We saw another touchdown run
3 weeks in a row. We talked about the hit with who was it? The New England linebacker that I had brought up. No, it was the other one. They're thicker.
Juwan Bentley.
Yeah, Juwan Bentley. Then last week he did it to Deion Jones and did it to a couple different guys. And then again today to Williams with the Jets D. Aaron, take us with that comment right into the run game.
Yeah, I'm loving. I've been saying this repetitively here for a couple weeks that getting that run game going and getting confidence in Devin Singletary is, I think, going to be crucial to if this Bills team can put together what I think is a special playoff run. I think one of the problems that happened to him last year was one-dimensional offense, especially in that KC game, knowing that KC, if they could just, get to Josh Allen and take him out of the game in the passing game, that they could really stifle this Bills offense. I think now, I don't know that Devin Singletary puts fear into defensive coordinators, but you have to account for the Bills run game right now after the last month of football and the physicality that it sets. We talk about it all the time. Brandon Staley was talking about, you don't have to pass or you don't have to run to set up play action. Like, we know those stats don't exist, but you do have to run and be able to do it with some decent physicality to establish physicality in a football game. And we've heard sort of in the middle of the season that this Bills team was soft in a lot of ways. This run game's not soft right now. And the way Devin Singletary is not soft, and it is setting a physicality by this offense, which makes teams play on their heels. And so I love what you're getting out of him. And just in this game, it didn't look fantastic. He had the long of 40, which is great. Is that the longest run since that week 1?
Since that long touchdown run early, it might be.
And he had 19 carries. Again, I think the more he gets the ball, the more productive of a back that he becomes throughout a game. He had 19 carries for 88 yards, 4.6 average in the 1 touchdown. Like, that's a good day that Sean McDermott has refused to answer the question of, who's the number one running back. Devin Singletary is the running back one, featured running back of this offense, and he will be throughout the entire playoffs. And I'm excited about that.
Last week, 23 carries to 5. This week, 19 carries to 5. Couple comments just to run through real quick here that I know Anthony put up. Carl Tillman, we'll get to this. The game ball goes to Leslie Frazier in the defensive unit, like historically dominant today. This was arguably better than the Houston Texans performance when we shut them out. It was right there on that
especially
level.
In field position.
Oh, yeah.
With the field position they gave up.
Jason, with a very smart comment again, smash that like button.
He gets it. Jason gets it.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. Bonta here. Don't forget, the Bills are a Josh Allen slip away from the number 1 seed. That 4th down in Tennessee. Strange game to end an anomalous season. Ready for this second season. Yeah, a lot of weirdness today, but
all starts over again now.
Yeah, a freaky 11-6, but still 11-6 and ready to be able to get that done. And
0-0 after tonight, though, baby.
Oh, absolutely. And I do want to bring that up real quick here. A couple people in the chat, I think, maybe joined after we talked about it early on. Right now, the game tonight does affect the Bills, but not in the way many are thinking. The only 2 options for the Bills, they are locked into the 3 seed. They can either play the Chargers if they win tonight, or if the Raiders win, it will be the New England Patriots. Even if they tie, which I don't think they're going to kneel it out the whole time, they still would play the Chargers. So no matter what, it's Chargers or Patriots. But the scenario everybody was joking about the whole time is in play. If the Chargers and Raiders just knelt it out the whole time, they technically would tie and both make the playoffs and knock the Steelers out. I don't anticipate that, but it's technically possible. Joe here say, got to go, but I just want to hear Anthony say fire hydrant first 5 times.
I'll do it because he's got to go fire hydrant, fire hydrant, fire hydrant, fire hydrant, fire hydrant.
You did it pretty well.
Rocks out. Donation. Well done.
I wish Anthony just like disappeared from his shirt, just like
yeah, right.
Like it was some secret potion we didn't know about.
I got really small in miniature.
Right.
Shrank down into a fire hydrant. So obviously, I think Aaron was spot on. You add in Josh Allen, 5 for 63, but tonight 33 carries for 170 yards, 5.2 yards a carry. We'll talk about that when we get to the offensive line when you combine it with 0 sacks. But I thought Devin Singletary was great. Anthony, any thoughts on maybe even the disparity? This is 3 weeks in a row now. Singletary 19 carries to Zach Moss's 5. He is the guy.
I think that's a big thought for me. Like we already touched on him continuing to win in one-on-one scenarios, whether it's with his shiftiness or running through defenders and showing some power, which he's shown. The beast motor comment is still ringing true. But I think, the amount of touches, we heard Brian Daboll say it in the offseason, and we heard him say it last year several times, and then regular season a little bit. They would go with the hot hand in the backfield. They would go with the hot hand. So we were all sitting around thinking, okay, maybe it'll be matchup dependent. Maybe this week it'll be Zach Moss, and maybe next week it'll be Motor, and maybe we'll get a Matt Breida game, and so on and so forth. And really, ever since we started clamoring for Matt Breida, it was just like something eventually kind of clicked for Devin Singletary. And I think he's entrenched as the RB1. I think we're seeing him as the guy. I think Zach Moss is more certain scenarios and certain game script times and, third down passing, or maybe just a spell Singletary for a drive here or there. But I think it's pretty clear that, he's not seeing Najee Harris level of snaps in the backfield where he's on the field for like 91% of the snaps. But I think we have ourselves an RB1 in terms of touches. And, maybe that's also part of riding the hot hand. He continues to show week in and week out. So maybe they're saying, you know what, screw riding the hot hand in the game. Devin Singletary is the hot hand based on the last X amount of weeks. Here we are.
I think some of the comments that have been made in press conferences throughout the weeks aren't just telling about what they feel about Motor. I think they've slightly talked about the other running backs in that they have mentioned, everybody's mentioned, he knows where he's supposed to be on every play. He knows his assignments on every play. He knows outside of when he's touching the ball, what that's supposed to do. I took that, and this is total speculation, as a little bit of that's what has separated him from a Zach Moss, from these
kind
other
of a backhanded, not a slight, but pointing out the fact that, hey, it's not just running the ball.
Correct.
Because if you're pointing that out about someone, it's easy to kind of infer that, okay, maybe those other guys are not doing those things, and that's why they're not seeing the field. Very fair.
Here's a great one. Devin Singletary, Harrison Phillips, and Ed Oliver playing the best football of their careers right now is just super nice.
Ed Oliver almost tackling Wilson at the ball.
Like,
oh my God.
If he hits that just a little bit different, he might chase that down for a touchdown return because he could have hit it between the two. Instead, he hit it back into Zach Wilson, who was able to kind of just flick it to the running back and end up getting a yard or two.
He looks like he's out there like chasing cattle and pigs on a farm, just like getting them by the legs.
His get off this year has just been unreal. His explosion from 3-point or 4-point stance and out, like mainly 3, it's just wild.
Jo coming back with 10 more Swedish kroner. That one I don't know. That he might be giving us 72 cents. I don't know.
I only deal in Swedish kroner.
I only accept Swedish kroner in any dealings. Anthony, how about with these receivers today? I know part of it we're not going to know until we see the film, and even when we see it, we're not going to know where the miscommunications came from. But maybe a little bit of a rough game from Gabe Davis. I don't think it's as bad as 3 catches out of 14 targets makes it look, but he had several that got him in the hands that he couldn't bring down, multiple tough ones that were not his fault.
But you expect them to make some of those. That is what we've seen out of him, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Stefon Diggs, strong game, 9 for 81 and a touchdown. I told people all week long, if you found any website that offered you the over-under on Stefon Diggs catches, and it was under the 6 he needed to hit that $658,000 incentive in his contract, I would have bet any amount of money that Josh Allen got him the balls he needed to be able to hit that incentive. And you could tell immediately he got peppered with 10 targets immediately early on. What did you think of the receiving core today?
Again, I think a lot of it's going to be tied to what the All-22 says and what the tape study shows based on what coverages the Jets are showing on the back end. There you go. I was waiting for it.
Unfortunately, the Chargers and Raiders are not kneeling it for 60 minutes straight. They're actually going to play the game. Of course they are. I'm
thank
confident.
God.
Yes. The owners, the commissioner, everybody told them, listen, that's not going to happen.
You didn't have to tell them. Nobody had to tell them. These are NFL football players. They spent an entire week getting ready for this game. If there's one thing we learned today, before I hand it back to you here, Anthony,
God. Yeah,
the Jaguars came to play. The Lions came to play. These teams could have easily packed it in for
Tennessee a game.
Davis thrills, baby.
You put your body on the line when you step in there, and you are not going to half-ass it. You're not going to play to lose. There's no tanking in the NFL. None of these things exist. They weren't going to ever come out and kneel out a game.
And now here, my name is Jeff. He's going like 3 layers deep with cover 1 here. I'm blaming Tremaine Edmonds for Matt Hack's horrible day today. That's just good tweeting.
I was going to mention that earlier when we were talking about the miscommunication with Allen and the receivers. Like, we didn't know whose fault it was. The only person who we know his assignment every play and we know it's his fault all the time is Tremaine Edmonds. Everybody
maybe he can punt since he can't do anything else.
No, he'll probably be terrible at punting. He's awful at everything.
Obviously, Sean here with a good one. So I'll ask the question to Aaron. What was better, Stefon Diggs' 9 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown, or the most disrespectful stiff arm I've ever seen a wide receiver give?
It was so sweet. And I honestly, so this is another one of those things where my wife during it she was like, that was a little much. And I was like,
I don't think it
was first of all, I'm about to stiff arm you for that comment about Diggs. Like, that would if a guy's coming at you and you can man him along the sideline like that, like, you take it every time. It was a beautiful. I wish he would have stood over him and got the taunting.
Yeah, it almost would have been worth it. How about the rest of this receiving core today?
I was going to say that highlight from Diggs was phenomenal. He was really the highlight. I mean, 14 targets, 9 catches, 81 yards, the touchdown. And then you're looking at Gabriel Davis is a real interesting one. So 3 catches, 39 yards, also 14 targets to be tied with Stefon Diggs. It was just, again, so I think a lot of it's going to come from the film study and seeing what was going on in the back end and what led to the errors in the pass game, whether it was on Allen, whether it was play calling, receivers, anything of that stuff. That's an awesome comment right there from Lars. 100% of Tremaine's punts result in turnovers. I don't know what he's doing. That's really good.
1,000%.
1,000%. Lauren also had a comment earlier asking if we accepted Stanley Nichols as payment, which I thought was fantastic, but I lost it in the comments. That was good as well. It was, I feel like it's tough to judge the outside weaponry in a game like this, where there is a lot of efficiency and a lot of, whether it's miscommunication or disconnect or disjointment amongst the group. But Stefon Diggs carried it. He seemed to routinely get open, showed that physicality on the stiff arm, continued to show that physicality in his routes as well, in terms of shaking off coverage and getting guys out of the way. And whether people were trying to play him in press man or zone, Stefon Diggs did what Stefon Diggs does. But then it was a little tough catch. He also had that drop in the kind of the back of the end zone where Allen put it right over the linebacker, and it was just off his fingertips a little bit. So I know it's a tough catch.
Yeah.
It would have been a crazy catch, but I feel like
the back shoulder he jumped for,
yes,
the timing was a little weird.
And we thought it was like tip, but they slow-mo videoed it, and it just went through his hand. I'm sorry. Roman commented, Asante Samuel Jr. just made a nice play. Anthony just reminded you what could have been. That's fantastic.
Here, real quick question my grandma asked here. So did Stefon Diggs hit the bonus mark? Yes. His incentive was he had 2 of them. One was for 100 catches. One was for 1,500 yards. He wasn't going to hit the 1,500 yards. He needed like 263 yards to hit that. But the other one was for 100 catches. He came into the day with 94. He ended up getting enough. I think he ended up with 9. So he went over it comfortably. But if he got 6, it was $658,000. So there was another one for another 658. It was actually 1.3 million he could have earned today. It actually also triggered 2 escalators in his contract for next year and the year after. So next year his contract goes up by 750,000 and 2023 goes up by 850,000. We'll see if either of those even matter. They may do an extension by then. But yeah, he earned himself almost $2 million total in new money between the two, or a little over that.
I just want to remind everyone that your grandma thinks I'm super likable, and I just want to let her know I appreciate it.
I still haven't heard how your grandma feels about me, so
we'll confirm. Yeah. We'll confirm. Jordan Policastro here. It was during a rough offensive stretch, but Josh's 28-yard dime to Knox was a thing of beauty. And as I mentioned, I literally tweeted
that got the momentum back.
Maybe one of the most needed plays we've seen in a long while. It's not a game-winning play, fourth down at the end of the game or something like that, but one of the most needed plays.
Oh. Yeah, that was a great throw. It started to really turn things around a little bit. He was a bright spot in that one moment. But yeah, it was a tough day for the outside weapons.
So one last section here in the offense before we go to the West Herd drive of the game.
Real quick on the receivers.
Oh, yeah, please.
Because I've been really hard on Isaiah McKenzie, and I will, when we start to talk about special teams, I'll be hard on Isaiah McKenzie again. Lauren's a little foreshadowing. I love Lauren. Thank you so much, Lauren.
She's hysterical on Twitter too, by the
absolutely.
way. Lauren's
great follow.
Hysterical on Twitter. And we appreciate you very much for the generosity.
Yeah, thank you, man. I want to go back and watch the L22 to see Beasley. It felt like a number of times he wasn't, and I'm not been a person that's, hey, Beasley's losing a step or anything like that, but it didn't feel like he was creating any type of separation. And when Josh was targeting him, he was covered. And I didn't want to see Isaiah McKenzie take over that slot role, but I did want to see more distribution in that slot role than I think we've seen since that Patriot game. And I did feel like this last couple of 3 games would have been a good opportunity to kind of test run some of that heading into the playoffs. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't gotten more burn from Isaiah McKenzie in that slot role to see if some of that production was, hey, that was just the Patriots game in a bad matchup, or was it something, hey, we can work with this guy going forward and maybe use both of them. So that's just another kind of addition to this wide receiver room. I don't feel like we've gotten the production out of Beasley that I'd like to see.
We had a little mix up here on the comment here, but the question he was asking was, aren't snow and the elements what characterizes Buffalo football, makes it entertaining, intimidating to visit the teams? Don't get me wrong, the whatever interim governor of New York State did put that it was part of the Buffalo bravado. I don't know. I think
these guys are from Florida.
California. Most football players are from Florida, Texas, Georgia, California. That's where most football players come from. I don't like football that's impacted by the weather. I will say, I think some fans minimize the fact, like what we saw in that Patriots game, where Josh Allen was able to pass and Mac Jones couldn't. So sometimes the wind and the weather, of course it affects Josh Allen. Of course his stats are worse, but the other side is even more affected, and maybe even more so. Today, Zach Wilson literally couldn't get anything going. So I think there's a piece to that, but I would rather see good football not affected by the weather if it was my choice. So for the last one on offense before we go to it here, and Brian here saying Beasley looked like he stopped on that almost pick. I think he thought Josh was going to scramble, because I watched that back because I thought the same thing. Josh looked like he was going to scramble and then threw it the last minute. Beasley turned and got ready to block because he thought Josh was going to run, which, Josh does that. Like sometimes it's hard. The one to McKenzie where he kept it alive like 4 different times and then fired across his body. We talked about it last week. people complained about the interceptions. Well, then don't celebrate that one.
Yep.
The one that he kept alive 3 different times, and then right before he went out of bounds, fired across his body back to the middle of the field, threading it between 3 defenders to Isaiah McKenzie for a critical first down when they scored a touchdown. Well, then don't celebrate that touchdown because it's a package deal. Sometimes it's a pick. Sometimes it's awesome. You don't know which one you're going to get.
More times it's successful or nothing than it is a problem.
Yeah, it's he does way more of that. RJ Melville coming here. Why does Josh really struggle against bad pass Ds, but then plays great against good pass Ds? Jacksonville, Atlanta, the Jets, Indy all had poor DB play. Conversely, some teams with good DBs, he did well.
I think teams play. This is something that happens a lot of the times when I watch basketball. I'll see my teams play down to competition a lot of the times, and I think sometimes those teams are also have a lot more to gain by playing well against better competition. I think these guys are all super competitors, even the teams that are at the bottom of the league. Look at what the Jacksonville Jaguars did to the Colts today and stopping Jonathan Taylor
must-win game.
And getting, stopping that Colts offense, which all 3 of us and Anthony on Disguise Coverage playoff preview put the Colts as the number 2 team that we were worried about facing in the playoffs. Now nobody's going to play them in the playoffs because Jacksonville came out and put it to them. These bad teams still get up for these games and put on their best performances against when you're the best, everybody's gunning at you. That's some of what happened to the Bills this year and why it was a bit of a down year. Like they went 13-3 the year before and now they come out and everybody's trying to come at you.
I think you also have to. Sorry,
we're just daring us with tongue twisters now.
Rush the washing.
Rush the washing Russell. Rush the washing Russell. Rush the washing Russell. Rush the washing Russell. Rush the washing Russell.
That's what the promo clip I'm going to use when I put out this for this tomorrow. I also, to go back to that poor pass D struggling conversation, I think you also have to take into account like what kind of pass coverage those struggling or poor pass defenses use. If it's still like, because again, football is still matchup based and team A might be great and team B might be terrible. But if team B is good at the things that can hinder team A, I think that's a big thing. Like, and I give kudos to Atlanta for the type of
Patrick just throwing in the $1 interruption.
Appreciate it. Patrick's awesome. He's awesome on Twitter. He's a huge supporter of ours. Thank you, Patrick. Atlanta was really creative in their scheme last week, and Dean Pease is a good veteran, experienced defensive coordinator. I think the Jacksonville game was more to do with the play of the front 4 for Jacksonville than it was coverage on the back end, but they've still got some guys. We torched the Jets the first game, the first time around, but this time Jets made some adjustments combined with the weather. So I think there's a lot of variables that play into it. I don't know if it's a blanket all, but I think it definitely plays into, Aaron, your point as well. Like, these dudes are also professionals and they get up for it. But I think a lot of it too is like generalizing, well, this team sucks, so we're going to destroy this team. Right. I don't think it's ever as straightforward as that. 1,000%. Yeah.
So Aaron, talk about this offensive line today. 170 yards on the ground, 5.2 yards a carry, 33 carries for 170 yards, and then 46 dropbacks with 0 sacks against a team that, if there was any strength left in this Jets defense, it was that defensive line to go 46 pass rush drops with 0 sacks and then 33 carries for 170 yards. Maybe the best offensive line performance of the year.
Well, yes, but the 33 carries, 5 of those were Josh Allen. What of those? Most of them were scrambles. I didn't see design Josh Allen.
Maybe no design, maybe 0 for design runs today.
So I don't know if I could put that though. That 63 yards, I think we have to take away from the offensive line, but they did their job. I think they did a good job. This, we talked about it going into this week, that this was going to be sort of a baby step up from the past 2 weeks of playing bad defensive lines and bad front sevens, where we were kind of giving them praise and I thought that maybe, well, not the New England game wasn't bad, but the way New England was playing schematically against this offensive line didn't really press them, right? And this Jets team is a little bit better. You have Quinnen Williams, Franklin Myers, like you have some pieces here that can get after you, can do some things, but they're still not the levels that we're going to see at this next level. Maybe not, well, Bosa, maybe not everyone on the Chargers besides Bosa, but in the playoffs, you're going to see a different level. So I'm excited. They did, again, this week, they did their job. I'm not trying to pump the brakes too hard on them. I am excited. I do think they found a good 5 to roll with, but it's still this is still my top number 1 concern going into the playoffs. I still think Josh Allen does things where you have these no sack games and they don't get a ton of pressure. I don't think the Jets will have had a ton of pressures when we see the pressure stats, but there's going to be a number of times where Josh Allen extending plays, doing things with his legs that take away what would have been maybe sacks from this offensive line and making them look a little bit better than they were. But I'm not mad at this offensive line. Nothing stood out as glaring to me.
Just did a couple quick calculations. Obviously, also took out the 3 kneel downs from Trubisky because those obviously aren't
rush. Yeah, for sure, right.
That count anything there. So it would have been 4.4 yards a carry. So it would have been 25 for 110. 25 for 110 from the running backs is fine. And then still no sacks. And I don't know that Josh evaded as much.
That 40-yarder though is like 30% of your rushing production, right?
Yeah. It wasn't a dominant performance, but still, I think a good game where the strength of their team was that defensive front. Anthony, what were your thoughts on the blocking today? Before I know, obviously, you'll know more when you break down the film.
What is the film? No, I think Ryan Bates has proved to be some sort of a solidifying piece up front. This unit looks like they work well together. They have good chemistry together. The sum of their parts works well together. That's an awesome comment from Biggie Scooby.
A home playoff game. Yeah, Biggie Scooby, which is just a fantastic name.
Yeah. I'm going to start calling you that.
Game. Yeah, I like it. I'd support that fully. A home playoff game with 70,000 fans for the first time in 26 years. It's going to be fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, that's going to be. I think that's a point that we didn't really
get to BookSeats.com and make sure that you get there for that.
Well, because honestly, there's going to be hot. You can go there right now.
I was going to say, stop watching us, come back and watch us later.
Yeah, pause the show, go to BookSeats.com, get your tickets, and then come back. Another guy who's always a consistent supporter. We'll talk about this again a little bit more in a moment, but John is always fantastic with us. The Bills had 9 sacks. The Jets had 7 completions. Wow, that's a great comparison. The Bills had 9 sacks. The Jets had 5 yards in total passing. There's a lot of fun wows in that one.
A lot of fun ones. And, the offensive line has had some wow moments in their execution and what they've done for Devin Singletary. I think it's nice. Again, I mentioned it throughout the last several weeks. These pin and pull runs have suddenly become a thing the Bills can hang their hat on a little bit, and they continue to execute them. And I think it's nice to see this Bills running game having games that we see other good running teams have, where it's like, okay, a gain for 1. Okay, a gain for 3. All right, a gain for 2. Oh, a gain for 12. Oh, a gain for 8. Like, it's actually like a real running offense at this point. They seem to have a rhythm, have something going. Singletary is working well with this offensive line. I think, I don't want to give too much credit to Ryan Bates, but I think he deserves some semblance of the positive vibes that are being thrown at this offensive line because, coincidentally, this line has looked better with his addition. So it's nice that they're just not, we've talked about it all year. They're a middling offensive line. That's fine. We just need them to not be terrible. That's it. And if they can be above average, awesome, but just be average. That's all we need you to be.
Here, Padden with a great one. Greg, as our resident contract expert, are you positive the Highmark naming rights did not include language about needing to win or lose in the most excruciating way possible in order to sell more insurance? Great season, guys.
That's a good question.
Thank you. You've been with us all year. But 2, I can tell you, I've gotten alerts from my Apple Watch here multiple times about my concerning heart rates during some of these games. It's never good. So we'll see where that one goes. As we kind of pivot over here and we move into our next sponsored segment, our guys over at West Her, the #1 auto group in New York State, 21 dealerships all over the state. All of your automotive needs, have everything that you need. We let off with you, Anthony, so you have to go last, and my goal is to steal your drive. Aaron, we'll start out with you. What was your West Her drive?
Mine would have been the drive to go up 20-10. It was a 7-play, 51-yard drive, 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Only because that, to me, put the game away. Like, as soon as you got up a 2-possession score on this game, we saw we'll talk about it in a minute with the defensive side of the ball, and you already mentioned the net passing yards. No matter how this game got, the only thing I was worried about was some special teams blunder, some weird play allowing the Jets to kind of stay in this. But I knew the Jets were not going to be able to drive the ball on the Bills. So as soon as they got up by 2 scores, I felt like that game's a wrap. In my opinion, they're not going to be able to put together multiple scoring drives against this team. And so going up 20-10, and that's when they started to get that confidence, get that, dominate. The game was dominant up into that point, but we talked about it offline going into this. It didn't feel like it. It felt like a Billsy drought era game up until, that score. So that drive was easily this one for me, the drive of the game. And I'm expecting a clean sweep on this.
I like it, and that was my choice as well. I want to give a little love to the opening drive of the game.
Sure.
7 plays for 75 yards, good mix of run and pass. Got the ball to 4 different receivers, some nice touches for Singletary. But to go 7 plays, 75 yards, we're so used to. I had such a run of all the whole double dip thing because we had won the Bills won 9 straight coin flips, and then they lost the 10th one, but the team chose to take the ball. So then they still had the double dip there. So it was a long time since the Bills opened up a game with the ball to start. So I like the fact that if you're going to do that, you got to take advantage and make sure
and make
teams
take a
lead.
Yes.
Yeah, make them pay for choosing and wanting
and make
to
future
defer.
teams
Yeah.
give you the ball.
Yeah, and want to roll the dice. Like, we can't let the Bills jump out 7-0. We have to try to match it.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that they've planted that seed. So I want to give a shout out to that opening drive, 7 plays for 75 yards, and strategically, I thought that might have been Anthony's backup plan as well.
Those are both in there for me, so screw you guys. But I'm going to go with both of those were my top 2, but just for the sake of difference, I'm going to go with the defensive drive for the Bills. So they have that
all of them
collectively. But one in particular, Matt Hawk drops the punt. He tries to run. He kicks it. The Jets have 1st and 10 at the Bills' 22-yard line. They go for a 1-yard run on 1st down, then an incompletion on 2nd and 9, and then on 3rd and 9, Zach Wilson is sacked for -10 yards. So they start the drive out 1st and 10 on the Bills' 22, and they end up 4th and 19 on the Bills' 31. They kick a field goal, and it's 10-13.
Actually, an impressive field goal make. I was really hoping just for the
I thought he pushed him out.
Yeah, I was hoping the emphasis of him stepping out of bounds and the pressure and everything like that would make it cash in with the miss, but it was actually an impressive make from
the wind started swirling a little bit. I was like, he might miss this. Also, really foolish play by Zach Wilson. I don't know why he didn't throw it away. I don't know why he ran out of bounds, but kudos to him, I guess.
Whatever. We had a rookie that did stuff like that at one point.
Yeah, he was real bad today. A lot of those. Like his fight or flight mechanism in his brain needs some recalibrating because it's bad. I haven't seen a guy backpedal like that people brought up JP Lossman. I have not seen a guy like hit seriously like that level of oh crap where like you just panic and backpedal. I haven't seen a guy backpedal 25 yards like that in forever. Like it was really sketchy.
That's why I was happy 2 division rivals picked rookies. We'll talk about it when we get to defense, but that's why I was happy they picked rookies. Frazier's going to do that to you.
Yeah, it was nice to see them take advantage of Wilson at times, and they did on that drive. And that was my drive in the game just because I thought the Bills' offense had stalled and was just looking so bad, and the Bills were dominating, but the Jets kept hanging around, and that easily could have been like, okay, well, the Jets started at the Bills' 22 and they scored a touchdown. It wouldn't have been like we would have destroyed the defense for it because it would have been bad field position and so on and so forth. But the defense answers. They drive them back, force the field goal. Dude makes a good kick, but then the Bills answer 2 drives later and score the touchdown. So my number 1 was the one that Aaron went with, close second for the one that Greg went with as well, because you guys both want to steal my joy. But then I like that defensive one as well, just because I thought that was a big moment. Like we could have been sitting there, all of a sudden it's 14-13. And instead the Bills, I think, maintained momentum, maybe even added a little bit because of how big that sack was.
Real quick, Raiders just went up 10-0 with a touchdown to future Bill Hunter Renfrow. Just scored a touchdown. So Raiders are up 10-0.
All New England had to do was beat the Dolphins, and then this Raiders win would have meant we would have gotten the Raiders.
Man. Yeah, it could have.
I'm kind of annoyed by that.
Maybe they're playing 4D chess. Maybe Belichick's playing 4D chess with us.
Yeah, he wanted to be able to.
The media will tell us that he read Sun Tzu and he's playing 4D chess to get us. Yeah.
So a really fun one I want to bring up here. So we're going to talk about a lot of fun things for this defense. We've already joked about the fact the Bills had more sacks than than today's opponent, the New York Jets, had first downs than they had net passing yards. Here's an interesting one, just to understand when we talk about having 4 first downs and that's dominant and bad. This was the first NFL game since the 2008 Oakland Raiders, who had interim head coach Tom Cable and Jamarcus Russell at quarterback, to have 4 or less first downs.
I knew when you said 2008, I was like Jamarcus Russell.
In 13 years since 2008 that any NFL offense had less than 5 first downs in an entire game since Tom Cable and Jamarcus Russell. That is historically dominant. So again, I'm going to rattle off a couple of these team stats that we talked about before we go into the defensive line. 4 first downs, 1 of 14 on third down, 53 yards in 46 plays. They averaged 1.2 yards per play. 5 net passing yards because they passed for 87 and gave up 82 in sacks. So they had 5 net passing yards. 48 rushing yards on 17 carries, 2.8 yards per attempt, pretty much the best part of their offense. And they possessed the ball for 23 minutes. The Bills had the ball for 37. This game was everything you could want from the defensive line because it was across the board. You had sacks from Boogie Basham. You had sacks from AJ Epinesa. You had sacks from Ed Oliver. You had sacks from 2 from Mario Addison. Jerry Hughes was in there wreaking havoc, not to mention the blitzing we'll get to in a moment. We'll start with you, Aaron. What were your thoughts on this front and how they dominated? What a offensive line they should have beaten, but no one could have predicted 9 sacks.
Not the 9 sacks, but I will say these defensive stats that we're throwing out here, like this is not just that offensive line had multiple starters out. We were talking with Connor going into this game.
Eric spot on here. Ed Oliver was a man to dominate.
All season long. Ed Oliver has been dominating.
The second half, he's been like in the all-pro discussion. Sure. He's actually getting better stats than Chris Jones and Aaron Donald in the second half of the year. The whole year, he won't get that. But he's been dominant, like all-pro level.
And that one sack today, him lining up at defensive end, at edge, and then driving to the outside shoulder, ripping, and then maintaining leverage and spinning inside to out-leverage and get the sack, that's wild.
When I saw it live, I just assumed it was a looping stunt and that the end crashed in and he went around. And
I rewinded it.
A guy asked me, and I went back to look. I was like, oh, crap, he just lined up a defensive end and bent the edge. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy. But I do think, outside of the sack numbers and some of the statistical numbers, they should have done almost exactly this to this offense. It was not even just on the offensive line. These receivers, I don't know who any of these guys are. Keenan Cole, I know. Crowder was out early. Tyreek Black had his first reception
which maybe might not have been a catch. He might have.
That was a catch. That was a nice. Yeah. That was a catch. That was a good catch by him. I'll give him.
I think his knee was down. They could have challenged it. I don't think he had a second foot down, but
his knee was down. Yeah,
and the knee from that same foot touch.
His knee beat his shoulder.
Yeah. Jeff Smith is a wide receiver. So like this defense, if they are who we think they are, which is one of the top rated DVOA defenses, you need to come out and dominate a team like this. So I'm happy. I'll take this victory lap, but this is what you're supposed to do to a team that's barely putting together a serviceable NFL offense.
And with just a quick check here, since the Dolphins put up 33 on the Patriots with a decent game, I think they put up 300 total yards and some decent games. This could give the Bills the DVOA number 1 spot for defense going into the playoffs.
That'd be fun.
It's possible. Anthony, any thoughts on the defensive line, and then maybe some of your thoughts into the linebackers?
Just a nice complete game from the defensive line. I thought Ed Oliver was fantastic. I thought Harrison Phillips had a really strong game. There's a couple plays that I have time-stamped and earmarked that I'm really excited to watch the tape for because it wasn't even plays that he necessarily got a raw stat on, but he just drove his man into the backfield and absolutely destroyed the depth of the pocket. Just really impressive snaps from him. He looked good. Mario Addison continues to have a quiet effectiveness on the edge in terms of his speed rush. Like sometimes he wins on the outside and it opens up that, running lane for the QB and the QB escapes. But if they get that contained from the defensive tackle on the inside, like they did on a couple of his sacks, Mario Addison continues to be effective. We saw some nice run defense again from Groot. I think Groot is top 5 or top 6 in run defense win rate or whatever for ESPN. Yes. Like he's putting together a nice year quietly. Everybody thought it was going to be sacks, but it's really been run defense for him.
The only rookie on that list too.
Awesome point there, Greg. Yeah, he continues to learn and develop, and it was just a nice complete game. This is what we should be seeing if this defensive line is really going in the pass rush game. This is how it's designed by Bean and McDermott and Frazier. They want to keep rotating. They want everybody to be effective. They want to have sacks and people for for across the line, interior, outside, veterans, rookies, young guys, all that kind of stuff. So really nice, complete game from them, and nice to see them finally have a game where they get home, so that way the sacks can match the pressures.
I can't wait to see you and Eric slice and dice the highlights from this game and show the dominant performance there was in stretches from Tremaine Edmonds. He finally had multiple of those splash blow up plays, a couple tackles for loss where he just destroyed the play overall. Some nice coverage
down the sideline, taking
like,
the running back on the wheel route.
Absolutely. Like, so the athleticism, the footwork, the ability. I'd love a little turn at the end, just because a savvier receiving running back could have come back into him and maybe drew a flag. But still, the athleticism, the footwork, the coverage ability was spot on, and he was exactly there. Just a really solid game for a guy that gets trashed all the time. You saw the blitzing ability from Matt Milano. Matt Milano has such a knack for finding the gap and being
shooting
able
those
to
gaps,
shoot.
man. Pulling that trigger, dude. Oof.
He's so liquid and fluid as he moves through there. It's unbelievable how he's able to navigate in that, it's such a mess in the box there. He's always able to fire through there. Great blitz from Jordan Poyer. You were able to see those pieces coming back and forth. Poyer was credited with 2 sacks. Yeah, Taron Johnson actually had a great run stop on a run blitz and coming around. So I'll go back to you, Aaron. So any other thoughts on the linebackers? And then these DBs, obviously, you brought it up. They should dominate the receivers they went against, but just an unbelievable performance. And I'll find the message here. When they went up to the podium in the post-game presser, all 5 members of the starting secondary went up, and they had Trey White's jersey with them along with it when they went and did it. Really cool scene. If anybody hasn't seen it, go check it out after our show here tonight. What were your thoughts on the linebackers and then heading into the secondary?
Yeah, I thought the linebackers did a good job in this game, but the secondary is probably, I think, was the most impressive part of this defense when we get the all 22. There's a number of those sacks where you alluded to it, where Zach Wilson's dropping back 15, 20 yards. Those were coverage. Dictated.
At least
the pressure didn't come
more than
early.
half. More than half. I would say 3 or 4 of them were legit, just straight up wins on the defensive line. And I think there were 3 or 4 straight out, like legit defensive line sacks, and then another 6 that were probably from
I don't know how the numbers fall, but I saw a number of times where Zach Wilson had his eyes downfield, couldn't find anything. The pressure wasn't coming right away immediately, and then pressure's going to break down.
He's just bouncing and looking and bouncing and looking.
Dropping back further and further, trying to find something, running around, trying to find something. And I couldn't see it because you're on the broadcast, but I think when we get the all 22, you're going to see guys just running around trying to get open, not being able to get any space away from Levi with help over the top of these safeties, and just knowing that no matter where he threw the ball, this defensive backfield was there and they were going to cover it. So I think this is going to look very good for the defensive back here. And that's good. I think they've continued to build confidence over this last month. This was a concern, not in a game like this, but this was going to be a concern losing Tre'Davious White. Dane Jackson's played fantastic coming in and filling in those big shoes of Tre'Davious White. Levi Wallace has played steady Eddie all season long. That one where he broke on it, it ended up being a tackle by Taron that stopped him on a 3rd and 5 or something like that. Levi was breaking on that ball. If Zach Wilson put that ball where Levi thought he was going, that was a pick 6.
If Zach Wilson threw a good pass, it would have been a pick 6.
Yeah.
He was lucky he threw a bad pass.
Taron also got blocked on that one and shed his man and shot to come make that tackle. So that was a good play for both of your guys there, Levi and Taron.
Taron had a hell of a game. I think when people watch back what Taron was able to do both in the run game, like you mentioned, Greg, and in the pass game, even on the touchdown pass, Taron was right there on that touchdown pass. And Jordan Poyer, same thing. He came right over. I thought it was a pick when I was watching that touchdown pass live. And then I see the Jets player running down the sideline. I'm like, what the hell did he get the ball? It was super close. That play shouldn't even happen in this game, the way this defensive backfield was playing. So pretty incredible. Love to see it. And hopefully we don't have to see Micah Hyde fielding punts anymore, so we can keep that defensive backfield together.
We'll get to it in the special teams piece coming up here, but never, ever, ever again. Anthony, any final thoughts on the secondary?
I think the only real, gaff is Poyer not picking that off on that cover 1 robber. Other than that, secondary.
He read it too. He had it.
He had it. He went for the pick, and him going, like, the real frustrating part is it's impossible to untrain yourself when you know you have it read right and think you can jump it for the pick to think, oh, it's actually 4th and 5. If I just make the tackle, it's also a turnover 2. It's impossible to train your brain to do that in the moment, but that outside looking in, it is frustrating that, hey, if you just line up and tackle them and hit the ball and knock it away, or anything related, it's also a turnover too. So
especially since he's like the last line of defense on that play.
Yeah,
if it goes the other way.
And
so ultimately their one touchdown was on a risky play that could have been avoided.
Totally.
And he reads it perfect. He reads the man coming from the right first and reads Wilson's eyes. He works high to low and he sees, he shoots, and
he knew where Wilson was going before Wilson.
You
was
take
going.
those 40 yards away and those 7 points, you're talking about literally one of the most historic defensive performances ever in NFL history.
Yeah, even worse than what it already was for the Jets with that included. That's a great point. But no, I think the guys were spot on. This is, I love Aaron's point, the idea of, because I think a lot of people are going to come and say like, well, it's the Jets or their receivers are out and yada, yada. And that's very fair. And I agree.
It is. Yeah.
But what you should do if you're a good secondary is you should dominate those backup guys, and that's what the Bills did.
It was the same backup guys against Tampa Bay last week. They had a 24-10 lead in the fourth quarter.
Right.
That's
so
fair.
The same backup guys had a 24-10 lead on Tampa Bay last week. So
that Tampa Bay secondary suspect.
Yeah, but
they
still,
also had
not everybody shows up and
Right,
dominates them. Tampa Bay's a damn good team, and they didn't show up and dominate them.
No, they had Berrios last week too. I kind of I'm glad he didn't play today, but I kind of wanted to see what Berrios looked like. I'd be interested in throwing some money at Braxton Berrios, but he's a Miami guy, so I'm probably biased.
So you talk about a guys. This came up. Our guys over on the Air Raid show, both Steve Mathis and Dave Tilton brought it up that he's also a twofer. That if you were, if the Bills decided to move on from Cole Beasley or wanted a year head start on replacing Cole Beasley, Braxton Berrios not only fills the slot receiver role, he's also a killer return man.
You guys though are assuming that the Bills are going to change their mindset of using returners.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We have not seen that as a core tenet. They usually want that as separate jobs. If they were to do that, Braxton Berrios is a guy that could solve that as a slot receiver and as a kick. He does kick and punt return, so he's good at both.
Right.
So a guy that we could have there. Let's take this opportunity to talk about our good friends at Uncle Jumbo's and our spotlight player of the
I already
game.
Finished mine. I have an empty can.
And our very first spotlight player that I haven't done this all season. Mine's going to go to Leslie Frazier and just an unbelievable overall performance in the strategy that's there. For anybody who's been listening to us since we went live, you'll see comments from Sean McDermott making people know that this is a Leslie Frazier defense. He's the guy that deserves the credit here. He's rightfully being considered for head coaching jobs. I won't be surprised if we lose him this offseason. We'll talk about that when the time comes. Just an incredible performance, and Aaron's confidence earlier saying the reason he's excited about facing rookie quarterbacks is when you have Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier facing a rookie quarterback is an uphill battle. Aaron, who was your Uncle Jumbo's player spotlight of the game?
I'll piggyback on what you said there, man. I do think Leslie Frazier doesn't. I've been really frustrated. You've heard me on this show, Greg. I've been very frustrated over the years that, even last year where the offense was doing really well, that Brian Daboll was getting credit for in becoming a head coach before Leslie Frazier was. I do think he'll get these interviews this year. I don't know if he'll get a job. I think there's still a good chance he comes back, and I hope that he does. What he and Sean McDermott have been able to do together here and putting back-to-back seasons of top 10 DVOA defenses here with the Bills is very impressive. It's so hard to continue to put together a dominant defense and keep a defense together, and what he's able to do, not just rookie quarterbacks. There's been years where we've seen them totally confuse a Tom Brady led team and give guys like that fits.
Tom Brady had a terrible run against the Bills. Like they won plenty of games, but it wasn't because Tom Brady ripped us apart. Like he struggled against McDermott and Frazier.
Yeah. And so I think Leslie Frazier does not get the credit he deserves. I think still a lot of people think that Sean McDermott has, and he does, Sean McDermott has a hand in this defense and a hand in that game plan. But I think Leslie Frazier has more to do with what gets this defense going and installing those game plans and leading these men. You saw the guys on the sidelines as they were kind of cutting into the end of that game. Guys were coming up to Leslie Frazier, dapping him up, giving him hugs. Like he means a lot to this team. And I hope that, I want him back, but for him, he deserves to be a head coach in this league as much as any name that is out there.
Our man Ron, great Cover One premium Slack member, good follow on Twitter as well. I think the one spot that makes the most sense because it also has a narrative element to it. Leslie Frazier was a starting piece on that dominant 85 Bears defense. You can bring him home. He's a respectable, stoic leader. It's all going to matter who he can pair himself with as an offensive play caller to be able to develop Justin Fields. But I think the Chicago Bears makes a lot of sense. And I don't know that there's multiple teams that are going to be looking to hire him.
You guys are giving
the one that makes sense
credit.
is there.
And he has former head coaching experience too, as well in his time with Minnesota.
Correct.
So there's
in that division,
for sure.
in that division. Yeah. So we'll see where that goes, but I think that's one that could make sense with him going there.
If Pace was smart, he would do it, but I have not seen anything to tell me.
The running Pace has done anything to decide he's smart. He should be out along with.
I agree.
Nagy tomorrow morning. We'll see where that goes. So Anthony, where was your head at for Spotlight Player of the Game?
I love what you guys said for Frazier, and you're welcome. And you guys are super handsome too, so I just want to throw that in there.
Smart,
as well.
handsome, likable. It's quite a combination.
1,000%. I'm not likable, just to your grandma. I say 1,000% too much, and a couple of people hate me. But I love what you said for Frazier. I'm not going to piggyback on that because I think everything was perfect. I'm going to do a duo spotlight, and I'm going to go for Hyde and Poyer. And I think today was one of those games where you saw the chess match problems that they present for an offense, their ability to show too high and drop to single, or show single and spin back to two. They're both of them blitzing off the edge. Poyer had 2 sacks today. They both had multiple plays in the run game or influenced the run game to allow somebody else to make the play. They have been such a stellar force for this Bills defense since they came to Buffalo, and especially in a year where I tweeted it when Trey went down. It's possible for the Bills to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl if without Tre'Davious White. Is it harder? Yes, but it's possible. What makes it harder is everybody has to step their game up. The position coaches, the coordinators, the head coaches, and all the players. Everybody has to step up to mitigate the loss of a stud elite corner like Tre'Davious White. And Poyer and Hyde have been playing at an elite level all year. Trey went down. They have continued that, and they maybe even have risen their game a little bit, and their positional versatility, their flexibility is so key to this defense. The fact that you can just play games with them back there, especially, Aaron, to your point, against rookie quarterbacks and make things harder for them. It's a huge thing for this Bills defense to have Hyde and Poyer, given what they can do. And as we go forward, Levi is Levi. Dane is going to be Dane. At some point, we're going to run into an offense in the playoffs, hopefully, knock on wood, that has some kind of stud on the outside or a really good passing attack. We have to see how the corners hold up, but we know that Hyde and Poyer are going to be on their game, and their presence just makes everything better for this defense.
For anybody watching and doing us on a second screen, the Chargers just scored a touchdown. Austin Eckler pulled it back 10-7. That would be one. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen would test us.
They're both very good.
Go to here. Lauren with a great call. No Reed Ferguson is the spotlight player. Long snapper started a fight. You got to respect.
He lost that fight though. No
real quick, Greg. I just sent you a tweet on Slack. I would pull it up, but I don't. I will break the stream.
But I don't know how that works.
Yeah. But it goes to what we were just saying here. And if you pull up that tweet here, it's basically Sean McDermott saying here in the prep. We don't get to, that's probably the one negative side of doing the show. Sean McDermott says, I want to give credit where credit is due. This is not Sean McDermott's defense. This is Leslie Frazier's defense. That's a tweet from AJ Feldman.
Hard to have a stronger comment than that.
That's pretty big. That's pretty big one for Leslie. Yeah.
Pretty serious. So obviously now as we kind of go back in here, I'm going to start with special teams. We'll end on a higher note. It genuinely might have been like the worst special teams performance ever when you do the combination of things. Somehow we blocked a punt and they didn't, but we almost had one with the bad. It was the snap. I don't know if it was a bad snap by Reed or is because of the wind. He did have to pivot a little bit, but Matt Hawk had 3 straight punts that were horrible. He averaged 33 yards a punt on 7 punts. That's horrendous. One of them was 53 yards.
His first 3 punts, he averaged 28.3.
Oh, gosh.
And that doesn't take into account the first shank that got called back because of the Reed Ferguson fight.
Yes.
So he technically had 4 horrible punts in a row.
Got to redo it. Yeah, the 3 in a row. 4 straight that were
and
horrible.
The second one that he redid was
worse. It was worse.
Yes. Well, then you add in that Isaiah McKenzie's decision making on the first 2 punt returns were so sketchy that they had to put in Micah Hyde for the rest. to round it out, and Apex is right here. Tyler Bass was excellent again.
Always
Made all 5 of his kicks. He's on a historic run. You talk about one miss in the windy playoff or the windy game against the Patriots. He's on a crazy hot run.
Matt Hawk has something to do with that. Unfortunately, I know people like to tease that a place kicker or a placeholder is not worth it. Crosby missed another one today, an extra point in this game. I don't know if it was Bojo's fault or not, but
Jay Feely said it. Jay Feely said it when we had him on the film room. He said a bad holder can make a kicker miss every kick. If you tilt it the wrong way, if your access is off, if your angle of how you're holding it is off, let alone the laces and all the simplistic stuff. He said a bad holder can make a good kicker bad. It is very important.
And I don't know if this one was Bojo's fault this week with Crosby, but Crosby was a good kicker. And since Bojo showed up,
if not for that longer windy miss against New England, he would be on 36 straight.
Yeah, he's up there with Justin Tucker.
Oh, it's unbelievable for on the season. 26-30 on the year, 48 of 48 on extra points. Just an unbelievable 74 out of 78 on the year. Just an unbelievable performance overall to be able to do that. And the coverage units were also excellent to be able to do that. But 95% accuracy from Tyler Bass. He's just automatic at this point. Again, I do want to mention the coverage units. They were very, very good.
When they had a chance.
Was good, but they didn't have to do all that much with the way the other team was playing, but it was a solid one there. The coaching one, it's hard to be able to do. There were some wasted timeouts in the weird segment early in the first half. Josh had to waste one in the second half. There were a couple spots where, maybe you could have pushed it. I think McDermott has shown he's more aggressive against better teams. The defense was dominant today.
Your offense wasn't playing well and your defense was playing dominant. That's a hard. You got to grade those decisions.
The fourth
on
down
the curve
conversion,
a little bit.
That spot was also going into the wind. We saw how impactful that was with both.
And
teams.
It ended up being a 3-and-out when they after they punted.
And McDermott knew that they were having a dominant, historic performance defensively. So he's got reason to go into there.
P's got a little bit killed by the Twitter analytics crowd this week with his comments about analytics and computers. Do computers know the weather? And people are like, oh, computer simulations actually are what predicts the weather because nerds can't get out of their own ways and understand what he was really trying to say. And what he was really trying to say, though, is what we saw with Sean McDermott today, whereas your defense is playing totally dominant against an offense that's inept. Your offense is struggling in the moment. Though the computer ideas that you're coming up with of when to go for and what to do aren't accounting for those in-game moments where it's really a gut feeling is, hey, if my defense is playing this good, can I get the ball back if we punt? Do I need this in the game against the Jets? If it's against Kansas City and you need every possession to win, that's different. If you're going up against the Jets and you can get the ball back in 3 plays, that's different. P's got a little bit killed for it, but he wasn't wrong in what he was saying.
Carl, good listener. Appreciate the comment. You're going to take the brunt of some frustration that other people have made this comment.
Yeah, I'm not interested. Yeah.
Corey Bojorquez is also horrible.
Yes.
If you want to replace Matt Hawk, that's a smart comment.
Sure.
Wanting to do it with Corey Bojorquez is a dumb comment.
Same with the Andre Roberts stuff. Like Andre Roberts just fumbled in this game. He just fumbled in this game.
So wanting an upgrade at punter / holder, totally valid comment. Yes. Makes total sense. I want somebody who's as good of a holder as Matt Hawk is, who's also a good punter.
Consistent.
I want both.
I don't need a good. I just need a consistent punter.
Corey Bojorquez has just as many 19-yard and 24-yard shanks as Matt Hawk does. I know that seems hard to believe. He's just as inconsistent. There's a reason that with the 70-yard bombs he kicks, he's still like 19th in the NFL in punting average, and he's the worst holder in the NFL, and Mason Crosby's having the worst season of his career with Corey Bojorquez holding it. So wanting an upgrade, totally valid. Wanting it to be Corey Bojorquez, no, get that the heck out of here. Final thoughts on coaching. We'll start with you, Aaron. What were your thoughts with the coaching staff today?
Well, and I didn't really get to get on Isaiah McKenzie, and I said I would. I don't ever want to say I'm Isaiah McKenzie in the kicking game again. I just don't. I know he's an explosive player. I know fans like him.
I don't want him off the roster.
I don't want him off the roster. I'm interested in the idea of him being a slot receiver that replaces Beasley in the future. I'm fine with that. Let's make him an offensive weapon. Get the ball in his hands. Manufacture plays for this guy. He's explosive. I don't want him fielding punts. He makes terrible decisions. That first punt that they punted to him, he had 15 yards of space, and he could have even just gone up and caught it. That's what I liked about Stevenson until he started having ball security issues. Was Stevenson was aggressive in catching the ball. He let the ball drop, it bounced, it took a bad Buffalo bounce. You lose yardage doing that stuff. Then he fields one and it slides through his hands. Like, every time the ball's in the air, that guy makes me super nervous. I want nothing to do with it. All I want is consistency in special teams. So I'm done.
And one quick comment there just before we go. We talked about it early in the show as you've had a chance to marinate on it. Knowing Sean McDermott and the guys we've had, they did pull the plug. We've seen them shift to Isaiah McKenzie. We've seen them shift to Micah Hyde during the game. We saw them go from Marcus Stevenson back to Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
Do you think today was bad enough that we see them go to the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillan? Do you think that we see that pivot?
I don't. I don't think. There's a reason he was out there for the Bills, and there's a reason they haven't gone
7 times. They let him punt 4 more times after the horrible start.
Yeah. I don't think they make a big change going into the playoffs. I think that this team also, they know when to make those moves. I think that they're going to continue. I think they'll be more aggressive in the playoffs anyway, where it's a one and done.
Not to punt.
Yeah, they're going to have those discussions. I think that'll play into the simulations and the analytics of how he's punted this year and the inconsistencies in the punting game. But I think the holding, number one, is going to continue to give him the edge. Bass's season that you just mentioned has to do with that entire unit. So I think that they're going to keep that just for the consistency's sake. I think they're going to be more aggressive in the playoffs anyway, because it's one and done and you're playing better teams. You don't want to give up possession. So that aggressive McDermott we've seen here down the stretch will show up. And I just don't know that it was a really bad game. I don't know that you make that much of a knee-jerk reaction to totally switch it up, but anything's, like you say, non-zero chance for sure.
I wanted to, can I pull this comment real quick? Aaron, Spin, because this is directly what you were saying. So Spin says, what did McKenzie do? He had 2 chances. First one was exactly what Hyde did every time. How many times did Hyde catch the ball? Second one, he saved 7 yards from a 10-yard penalty. Hyde let the ball bounce every time with room to catch. Aaron, would you like to elaborate on why Micah Hyde had a better day returning the ball than Isaiah McKenzie?
Well, Hyde didn't let it bounce every single time. He had a couple actually decent returns in this game.
Also, Micah Hyde's not a punt returner. He's not.
Yeah, Micah Hyde doesn't exactly. Micah Hyde
doesn't want to do that. We have him back there because we can trust him, not because he's good.
Correct. He's just back there to not make mistakes. And so, yeah, he did let the ball bounce a few times. There's some wind. Like, so the wind is there. But if you're Isaiah McKenzie, your literal reason for having a roster spot on this team was to be a punt return specialist and a kick return specialist.
And he didn't save anything the second one. He muffed it and fumbled it.
And he just fell to the ground when he did it, so it trapped underneath his body.
He didn't save anything. He muffed the punt and fumbled it and had to fall on top. That's why he got benched.
Yes, that's why you saw Micah Hyde. Sean McDermott does not want to see Isaiah McKenzie
he saw it again and said, "Hey, I can't trust him."
Yes,
just like he did again.
I've been saying this about Isaiah McKenzie all season long. When someone tells you who they are or shows you who they are, believe them. It's a Maya Angelou quote. It's true. It's a cliche. It's super true. This is who Isaiah McKenzie is. There's a role for him on this team. He can be an explosive weapon. It's not in the kick game. I also don't want Micah Hyde back there. I'm fine with Stevenson. I think I still don't feel great about Stevenson, but I'd be fine rolling him out there. I'd be fine with just
obvious need going into next year.
It's a huge need right now, and somebody's got to prove themselves. It's wide open. But I don't want to be Isaiah McKenzie. There's nothing. I'm not this type of guy, but there's not something anyone on the internet or anywhere in the world can say to me to feel confident in Isaiah McKenzie as a kick returner.
I don't know how we're still having this, and I don't mean to be rude with it, but I don't know how we're still having the conversation with when Isaiah McKenzie gets the ball in his hands, he's explosive, he's dangerous, and he's electric and fun to watch. I don't know how we're still at the point where people are defending his decision-making and ball security when the ball is in the air. I have the same feeling when the Bills are on punt return and McKenzie's back there and the ball goes in the air. I have the same sinking feeling in my gut that I do when the Bills are punting and it goes back to Matt Hawk to punt the ball. Yeah. The inconsistency. I don't know what I'm going to do.
He's been as inconsistent as Matt Hawk. It's just
that's very
people are more comfortable.
He's nicer and they like him.
Easier to see. He's fun. He has just like Matt Hawk is a holder, and that's not quite as exciting. Isaiah McKenzie has another role. It's why he's still on this roster. Yeah. He's still there. It's there's a reason that he's there, but he's just as inconsistent as Matt Hawk as a returner.
Yeah. And when he gets the ball, it's fun, but it's an adventure. as to whether or not
it's not the kind of adventure I want. I'm willing to have a Josh Allen experience and adventure there and in some other areas. All I need from special teams guys is consistency. I don't need the best returner in the league. I don't need the best punter in the league. I just want to not be on this show talking for 20 minutes about the special teams issues. That's all I want. Isn't that all that's ask?
Don't muff, don't fumble.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, Anthony, closing us out here, our final thoughts on the game, what you're expecting going into the next one. We'll do a quick update here, checking in on the game. It is currently 10-7 Raiders there going into the second quarter. They're up 3 points. If this were to hold and the Raiders were to win, the Buffalo Bills would host the New England Patriots next week in Buffalo. If the Chargers come back and win, the Buffalo Bills will host the Los Angeles Chargers in Buffalo next week. We don't know what day, when they're going to put it. It could be Saturday, Sunday, or Monday night. We don't know which one. We'll wait and see where that falls out.
So that could be the Nickelodeon slime game.
Could be the MVP. We could have the MVP. We'll see where that goes. Anthony, with that in mind and seeing what we saw today, what are your final thoughts on this game, this season, ready for the playoffs?
My first is not to get like sappy, but the drought sucked, man. And I said it last week, like
4 out of 5 years, man.
Yeah, like my biggest games as a kid that I remembered were, the Bills are playing this expansion team, basically named the Jaguars. We should win. And then Natron Means ran all over us. And then the Music City Miracle, and then darkness for the majority of my life. I think it's awesome as hell. 4 out of 5 years in the playoffs, back-to-back AFC titles. I know we want Super Bowls. I know we want the big trophy and the championship, and there's no moral victories and this and that. But it is so fun to come into the last week of a regular season in the NFL as a Bills fan and know, hey, if we win today, we win the division. And hey, let me watch these other games and see where we fall in the playoff seeding. Go ahead.
If we lose, we're still in the playoffs. Imagine telling yourself 8 years ago that the Bills will go into the last week of the season already clinched.
Exactly.
I would have slapped you in the face and told you to get away from me. That's not possible. That's
part of the thing. The closest thing I had during the drought was like, okay, if these 9 teams lose today, we might have a shot. But majority of the time we were out.
And then the Bills would still lose.
Yes, and they would still lose. And the fact that we came into this day knowing that if they win the division, and then we were scoreboard watching other games for the sake of seeding and playing chess with ourselves and figuring out, okay, who do we want to play? If this happens, we play this team. It's so fun to have this year after year with this team. Huge credit to Josh Allen and the on-the-field execution, but I'm just really appreciative of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane and the leadership at the helm and what we have going forward. And I know to, put it into this season, I know everyone's expectations going into this year, and a lot of people were thinking, 14-3 or 13-4 and the number 1 seed and so on and so forth. And then we have a couple ugly losses, and we've shown some flaws in this team. But we've said it on this postgame show how many times? Every single team in this AFC has a flaw. There is no one team that is perfect, that is solid across the board. Even Kansas City, who all 3 of us said on Disguised Coverage this past week that that's the number 1 team we'd want to avoid. They were a defensive touchdown away from legitimately losing to the Denver Broncos yesterday. Every team has shown inconsistency, shown flaws. All you got to do is get in the dance and see where you can go from there. The Bills are in the dance. They have genuinely as much of a shot as anyone else. Now we play the matchup games. We see what happens from here on out. We get to finish this and go watch Chargers, Raiders, and play more chess matching. But it's nice to finally be in this position. I know other fans of other teams are going to be like, you guys are just happy to be here and Super Bowl losses, whatever, shut up. The Bills got a good team. They got as much of a chance as anybody to go to the Super Bowl from the AFC. The second season starts this week. This is an awesome time to be a Bills fan, and it's also a nerve-wracking time because this is a good team that can still go to a Super Bowl. Now we just got to see how everything shakes out and how they execute.
Aaron.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said here. And this is a very interesting year. There's no front runner. I watched that Kansas City game yesterday. I didn't walk away feeling, I actually felt bad for what I said.
I'm not afraid of them.
Yeah, I felt bad for what I said on your podcast, Anthony, that they were my number 1 team that I didn't want to play because I was watching them and saying, man, the Bills if the Bills show up, they can beat this team easy. Like there isn't a team in this AFC playoff race right now that I'm scared of. I don't think that the Bills can handle if they're playing their best football. That's the problem with this year too, is the Bills are also one of these teams that's a super flawed team and are beatable if they aren't playing their best football. So this is going to be a really hard playoffs to sit around and watch, because this Bills team, it depends who shows up. But what we do know, this Bills team can rattle off 5 wins in a row. We've seen it last year. We've seen this team this year put together multiple wins in a row. This team has one of the legit quarterbacks in the playoffs. This matters. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. He can put this team on his back and win a football game. That's going to come down and matter in this. They've had consistently throughout the entire NFL season, the longest NFL season of my life, they've had a top 3 defense by almost every metric. That is going to matter in the playoffs. All these things matter. This is a very good football team that, when they're playing at their best, is as good as anyone in the league and can beat any of these teams, AFC or NFC. I'm not scared of the NFC teams either when the Bills are playing at their best. They can win a Super Bowl. They can also lose in the first round to any of these teams that are going to be in the playoffs.
There we go.
We don't know what's going to happen. If fans of other teams want to say, oh, you guys are just happy to be there, you're goddamn right. I'm happy to be here. This is all I've ever wanted my entire life as a fan, is to have a shot each and every year. People used to make fun of the Cincinnati Bengals for being one and done all the time. When I was sitting through the drought, I would have given anything to been a Bengals fan during that time. I was jealous of that, the fact that they even punched a ticket every single year. The Bills are punching a ticket, and they've proven that they can win in the playoffs, and they've done it, and they can do it again. And I'm super excited to be here. We're in the top echelon of the NFL fans. This is a great time to be a Bills fan. Soak it up. The arguing over Tremaine Edmonds is no good. We need to do this next year. I don't want to hear anything about next year. I don't want to hear anything about who's no good. I just am focused on whoever they're playing next week and seeing if we can advance in this dance, because that's the beauty of the NFL, guys. We don't have 7-game series. It doesn't matter. It's who shows up on Sunday or Saturday or Monday, whatever, next week, and advances. And if you go on a run, that's it, baby. You're going to the Super Bowl. So let's do it, baby. Let's be the last year's Bucks and go on a run here right now.
Advance in this dance that you just said is fire. Dude, that sounded so good. Advance in this dance. Oof. Well done.
You like that?
So as we close this out here, the part I want Bills fans to step back and to think about is, this is what a bad season feels like now.
Yeah.
This is what a frustrating season feels like now. 11-6, 5 losses in 1-score games. The Bills had 11 dominant wins, 11 wins by double digits. That is a dominant season. You always see the people put out, hey, what happens if we flipped all the 1-score games the other way? The Bills would have gone 16-1 and would have been a historically dominant team being talked about by everyone. This is what a bad season feels like.
They're bad weather away from sweeping the division 2 years in a row.
Yes. Aaron, you've talked about it, that the Buffalo Bills, as long as they have Josh Allen, their championship window is open. That's 100% accurate. Don't let anyone tell you that some cap figure or pending free agency or anything is what impacts whether the championship window is open. The only thing in the NFL that impacts whether you have a real chance is, do you have a franchise quarterback? Then all the other things matter. Those are other factors that come into it. How far you can go, how much they help, support, supplement, take away, all the other things. We've seen Aaron Rodgers have bad seasons. You can mess it up if you have a franchise quarterback. But the Buffalo Bills have Josh Allen, and as long as they have Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills have a chance. And this year, 11-6, 11 dominant wins, back-to-back AFC division championships. This is what a bad season feels like now. Wash that over you. Let that soak in. Tell yourself how that feels for as long as we've waited this entire time. This is what a bad season feels like. Now, I've said it for weeks now. Everything is on the table. Aaron just described it perfectly. We could be in for 4 straight seasons, 4 straight wins here to win a championship. And our man Mark said it perfectly here. Someone has to win the Super Bowl. Why not us? That is absolutely 100% inarguably in play. That is possible. So is losing to the Chargers or the Patriots next week. That is also in play. All we know is every single week that they show up, the Bills have a chance and they can bring home that W. So next week, we're going to be here for you. We're going to watch tonight. We'll let you know whether we have a guest on for the Patriots or the Chargers on Wednesday night. We're going to have to scramble and wait and see who it's going to be. But we're going to be there for you. So
And we're cooking up a little something special for maybe a Friday night playoff extravaganza with some of the guys.
Might have a whole rundown of the entire Cover One staff and maybe a couple special guests on top of that. We'll have to see how it goes. Getting you fully ready for the playoffs and what this run could mean. But we're going to be there for you. Tomorrow night, you're going to have our guys on Cover One Roundup, and then you're going to have the Air Raid Hour. On Tuesday night, you're going to have the Film Room, and then you're going to have the Hoof. On Wednesday night, you're going to have Anthony in disguise coverage, and you're going to have Aaron and I with a yet-to-be-determined guest because we don't know who we're playing to preview the playoff game plus our playoff extravaganza on Friday night.
Chargers just went up with another touchdown.
Aaron, look what Greg's grandma said.
Aaron,
look it.
You're in the club.
Thanks,
All
Grandma.
three of you.
Thank you, Grandma.
But
There's
yes,
two people who I know that love me, and who think I'm likable, and that's Greg's grandma and Aaron's mailman.
That's
right.
right.
That's all I know.
Yeah, there you go. So now we have a second Austin Eckler touchdown here tonight. Justin Herbert, the Chargers take the lead 14-10. So as of now, we would be playing the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll see where that goes. I can't lie. With how wishy-washy their team is and how bad their defense is, I think I'm kind of rooting for the Chargers.
Also,
I would love to see the Chargers come up to Buffalo with this
play in the weather there was tonight and see
it.
them come play in -2.
Great uniform battle, too. Bills unis against whatever uniform
old
the Chargers
throwback
pick.
AFL.
Old throwback
Nice
AFL.
Yes, beautiful.
But for tonight, our show is only possible with your guys' generosity, with the contributions that you make, with the support of our sponsors. Go and find Uncle Jumbo's. Steve, he is out there representing Bill's Mafia as a competitor in barbecue and steak competitions. Doing a great job. He has it's 716 grilling out there in the Midwest. He goes all over the place. Fantastic group and does a great job.
You guys can thank
Appreciate
me
him
for
very
keeping
much.
the pressure on Greg and bullying him back into doing his steaks this year. You're all welcome.
Yeah, you did. Peer pressure works. But make sure you're checking that out. When you go to Uncle Jumbo's, tell him that Cover One sent you. When you listen to this, give us a like or a rating or review. If you're listening right now and you haven't hit like yet on YouTube, what is wrong with you? Are you mean? Are you just a thoughtless?
Are you a
horrible
Patriots
person?
fan?
Are you a Patriots fan? That's what keeps us alive. That's what lets people know about the show. That's what helps share it for others. So give us a rating, give us a review, give us a like, support our sponsors and our newest one, BookSeats.com. If you're looking to come into town to go to this game, check them out. If you're getting ready to maybe go on the road to Kansas City, go on the road to Tennessee, go on the road to LA for the Super Bowl, make sure you're checking them out to be able to get the best seats, the best hotel, the best flight packages, design everything that you want for your trip at BookSeats.com. This has been fantastic tonight. You guys have been awesome in the chat. It was one of our best shows all season long. We can't wait to keep the good stuff rolling. On behalf of Anthony Prohaska and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are